Welcome back to Sprague Homestead. I'm Nikki, and today we're going to set up our Vermicomposter worm bin. So you might remember that I did an unboxing video about the Vermihut back. Oh, it's been a few months now. It was back in the fall. And had planned to get my vermicomposting set all up and running before the winter. Well, we've had some delays. We were trying to buy some worms locally. One set of people kind of dropped off the map, quit returning emails. Another set of folks wanted us to drive almost an hour out of the way to go pick them up. Another young lady here in town, in the Klamath Falls area, actually fell and broke her pelvis. And so we never could quite meet up with her. We've had a couple other people that we were dealing with and couldn't get a hold of anybody. So we finally broke down and ordered through the mail, which I didn't want to do because we had ordered through Uncle Jim's worm farm last year and had some major problems getting them in. One set got smashed by FedEx. The next set got left in an airport during the big storm that went through Texas last year. And they were there for about 2.5 weeks. So they were pretty dried out and dead by the time we got them. So we did decide to order this time through Northwest Redworms. They are out of, I want to say, Camas, Washington. And so we thought, well, we'll give this a try. They're pretty local. They check the weather and they don't ship if they don't think the worms will make it. So I bought some, ordered them a couple days ago. They shipped them and they've actually already come in. They originally said Friday and they're already here. So we picked them up today. So we're going to go ahead and use these guys. These are the Red Wiggler composting worms. And we're going to get our kit set up. Now, you might remember in the unboxing video that there was all kinds of extra parts and pieces that wasn't mentioned in the manual. And that's still the case. I've looked online and looked at some other unboxing type stuff. And mine kind of has pieces and parts and things that don't seem to go in other kits. So we're going to set this up to the best of our ability and just kind of see how it goes. Okay, so the Vermihut has 5 trays, and to get started, all we really need is just one main tray, the base piece, what is listed as the worm guard, and the lid, and we won't even need the entire lid to get started. So what the instructions say, we'll set the lid over here. What the instructions say is to put your worm guard on the bottom, and this is that kind of curved, there you go, curved perforated piece. It says to put that on, and then it says in the tray, and this is kind of where we get into some weird stuff. In the tray itself, before we put the bedding in, the instructions say to use newspaper or whatever. Online, the instructions say to use this kind of gauzy stuff and to actually put it down because there is no worm saver in a lot of the other kits. And then to put this down into the base, okay? My kit came with this, but it doesn't seem to, according to the instructions, have any purpose. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. The other thing is where the instructions online and in my thing say to put newspaper in the bottom to keep your bedding in. Mine actually has this coconut fiber mat. I emailed the company about a month and a half ago to ask about it, got no response. So I think, from what I can tell, it should all be biodegradable. So we're going to use that as our base. And basically that's going to help keep our worms from getting away. Now there's a little groove in the corners of this. The tray just kind of sits on there, no big deal. And then we're going to go ahead and put our bedding material in the tray. So they send you this fun little coconut block. And if you've never used one of these, they're kind of cool. It says to put about 4 cups of water into a bucket, drop this thing in it, and it expands out. Now, I'm actually going to save this because I use this stuff for seed starting. And I actually just made a whole bunch of it up. Okay, so this black tray, this is a normal 10-20 seed starting tray, is about 1 block. I took a little bit out, but not much. And you'll see that it's kind of dark. What you want in consistency is you want it nice and moist, but not dripping wet. Too wet, and you need to add paper or something like that to kind of bring your moisture down. And this is about perfect because this is what I use to start my seeds. So definitely nice and moist, but not saturated. So we're going to use this as bedding, and we're just going to go ahead and take it and dump it in here. Now it says in the instructions to use the entire thing, and boy does that seem like an awful lot. So we'll see how far this goes. And you kind of want to crumble it up just to make sure it's not packed, but also to make sure that you don't have any dry spots in it. So this is going to be our bedding for our worms. We're also going to use this to bury their food in. All right, and that is not quite a block, but I actually think that's going to be more than enough. And I'll show you why. And that is about 2 inches worth in here. Kind of even it out. And you can kind of see it's about 2 inches worth. It's not quite half full. All right, and the next step is to actually put some food in for the worms. So you might remember from the unboxing video that they gave you this fun little magnet. This is going to go on my fridge. That tells you what the worms can and cannot eat. So it says you should add things like fruits, vegetables, coffee ground, tea leaves, cardboard paper, dried leaves, grasses, eggshells. You're limiting rice, bread, tomatoes, citrus fruit, cake, potatoes, and we're avoiding things like meat, eggs, fish, dairy products, bones, and pet waste. So it's kind of a fun little thing just to make sure that you know what you're doing. What I'm going to start mine off with is this tasty, tasty looking bowl of basically eggshells, coffee grounds, and some lettuce that is just past its prime. So actually what you're going to do is, from everything that I've read online, a lot of people say bury some in all 4 corners or right in the middle. That's kind of your choice here. There are some people online that say that if you put it in the corners, you're more likely to have worms escape. I don't know if that's true or not. We're going to go ahead and just put it in the middle just because. And I'll show you why I'm going to do it that way here in a minute, because it's got to do with the lid. So you're just going to put everything in. Tasty. All right. And then cover it with the soil or the bedding. And it doesn't have to be 100% covered, but pretty close. Again, this little spatula they actually sent me with the kit. Again, this is something that's not mentioned in the booklet, but I assume this is what it's for. So that's what we're going to use it for. So there you go. All nice and buried. Worms are fed, bedding's wet, and now we're just going to add the worms. Now, if you order worms online like I did, they come in a fun little bag. When I ordered from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, it was actually a drawstring bag. These guys put a zip tie on it, which is going to be super, super hard to get off. All right. And these guys are going to be mailed in some kind of soil. So what they advise from the website is to dig a trench around your food or next to your food or whatever you want to do, because we're going to bury our worms in here too, just like we did with the food. These guys don't like light. Okay. All right, we're going to try and be gentle about it. Oh, there we go. There we go. And you can kind of see that is worms. Great big group of worms. Let's kind of gently push these guys in. That's a big group of worms right there. And they are not happy about the whole light situation. So we'll go ahead and get them buried in there. All right, because they don't like light, they are going to instinctively start burying themselves down in there. So we're just kind of helping speed that process up. Oh, yeah. And they're a little stunned. Traveling is hard on them, as you can imagine. These guys look in really good shape. That first set I got, like I said, they were pretty smashed, but they were also very sluggish. Okay, so from here, what the instructions say to do is not to put the full lid in. So with our lid, remember it's got air holes in the front, and it has this piece on the underside called the worm saver lid. So the instructions actually say for the first 3 days, this thing's in there pretty good. Take it out, and we're just going to set it on top. And here's why we're going to do that. Like I said, worms don't like light. And the first thing that stressed worms do is they try and move. We want to keep our worms in our container. We don't want them all over the house. That's going to be a mess. So we are going to put the clear light cover on top, and then we're actually going to put a light on top of these guys for the next 3 to 4 days. And I put them, or where I'm going to put them is right out there on my seed starting rack. So I'm just going to flip on one of my grow lights directly on top of them. That'll encourage the worms to burrow in and not decide to move into my sunroom. All right, so there we go. Our worms are safely put in. They're on the shelf with the grow light on them. That ought to discourage them from trying to make a break for it. Here in 3 or 4 days, we'll go ahead and put the lid on. They should be well settled by then. And of course, you can see that this is kind of a low shelf. As we go along, as I expand, we'll raise this shelf up so I've got more room. But this is where it is right now, which works out really good considering we've got to put the light on it. I can kind of lift it up. See, you can kind of see that all the worms have pretty much disappeared. They are heading south, hopefully to find all that delicious coffee grounds and old lettuce. I wasn't real crazy about this whole thing because there's a lot of room around it. To me, it just looked like the worms could go out. But if they don't like the light, they should be pretty good. I still might go ahead and put a cloth cover over the top of it. Nice and breathable. Plenty light translucent, but just to make myself feel better about it. And that is it. We're all set up. Okay, so from here, we're just going to go to the upkeep section, and it says in about 3 to 4 days after we get it set up, we're going to check and see. We should see that the food is about halfway gone, and I don't know about you, but I'm always a nervous mom about stuff like this, so I'm sure I'm going to be checking a little bit more often than that. It says 1 pound of red worms ideally can consume half a pound of food a day. So I didn't put a whole lot in there, and we did start with 1 pound. So I guess, but I'll probably check, like I said, probably every day, because that's just how I am when I get started on a new project. And we'll just kind of see how it goes. So again, that's the Vermihut. We'll kind of see. I'm really excited to get started with this. Supposedly, if you can keep your worms happy, they start to reproduce pretty fast, which would be great because I would love to get started on some outdoor composting maybe later this year. We'll kind of see how it goes. But so far, that is our little setup, and fingers crossed, we'll keep it going. That is it for today from Sprague Homestead. We will see you next time. Happy homesteading.